I love little retro handheld emulation devices, but how small is too small. Oh hi, I'm TechDweeb. Thanks for clicking on the video. Hey, why not subscribe? Wouldn't that be fun? I love small handhelds. I've reviewed a few of them on the channel. I like that they're small. I like that I can shove them in my pocket so that when I leave my dungeon of solitude at my mom's basement on the rare occasions that I go to exotic locations like the candy store or the upstairs living room, I could reach into my pocket anytime and pull out my little handheld and play games while the adults around me silently judge me but are secretly jealous of my mad burger time skills. That's what I tell myself at least. Even these can be pretty big. What if you're wearing skinny hipster jeans? What if your pockets are already full of candy? What if you just have one tiny little pocket and it can only hold something that's an inch or two big? Well then I guess you can't bring your little pocket handheld to play retro games. Sorry buddy. Hey, come on now, cheer up, cause I have something you might be interested in. This is the FunKey S. The S stands for small and the FunKey stands for funky. And it is funky. It's a funky FunKey. It may look like a GBA SP or a POW Kitty V90, but it's got a trick up its sleeve. It's a little mini baby version. Your eyes do not deceive you. This thing is freaking tiny. And let's just get this out of the way right now. It's too small. It just is. Nobody in their right mind would buy this as their only retro handheld and play through the entire Mother 3 fan translation. You go freaking blind staring at that tiny screen for any extended period of time. Your fingers will get all cramped up and mangled from trying to press those tiny buttons. It's not the most comfortable experience, to say the least. Actually, it might be the least comfortable gaming experience, to be honest. But I freaking love it. Why? Why not? It's so darn cute. It's a little tiny retro handheld that plays all your favorite retro games from the 16-bit era, including some more advanced stuff like PlayStation. And while, yeah, it's not a luxurious experience playing anything for an extended period of time on this tiny little screen of buttons, you can indeed play some games on it and have a good time. And look at the size of it. You can shove this in any pocket, even those tiny weird pockets they put inside other pockets. Nobody uses those pockets for anything. Well, now you can. It's your FunKey S pocket. You can even put this thing on your keychain. That's right, so you can play Spyro while you're driving, or Super Mario Bros. ROM hacks while you're trying to unlock your front door, but the lock is frozen because you live in Canada and you need to chip away at the ice to be able to put the key in the lock, but at least you're playing Super Mario Bros. ROM hacks. If that sounds good to you, well, this is pretty much your only choice. I know you guys like unboxings, so I'm gonna quickly rebox this for you, and then I'll unbox it, and we'll pretend we don't even know what's in here. Oh wow, look at this. I wonder what's inside. Oh look, it's a tiny little Game Boy. Neat. Under here we have our manual. Oh neat, it's shaped like a Game Boy. It tells you about the function, button, hotkeys. Oh, that's cool. I wish I read this earlier. Open source, powered by a custom Lynx operating system. Good stuff. And there's some buttons in the bottom. Yeah, that's right, you can replace the buttons. Should we do that right now? Yeah, let's do that. My FunKey S is Atomic Purple, which is just a transparent purple, sort of like the original Gameboy Advance color. They don't have many color options for this thing, which is a shame. I would have loved to get orange. So we're gonna swap out these boring gray buttons with a color. Let's go with yellow. Did you know that yellow is the complementary color of purple? So this should look good. Yellow and purple together. Yeah, that's great. I love it. Okay, onto the device itself. Let me give you the tour. As you see, it's freaking tiny. It's about 1.5 inches square. For the guts, it's got an ARM Cortex A7 at 1.2 GHz, 64 megabytes of DDR2 memory. It comes with a 32 gigabyte micro SD card pre-installed, LCD IPS screen at 1.52 inches square, a 240 by 240 pixels resolution, a little mono speaker, and a 410 milliamp hour battery. The buttons are nice. They're all clicky, even the D-pad. But on a device with buttons this small, I think clicky makes sense because you need that tactile feedback just to make sure that you're actually pushing the buttons properly. We have the D-pad, ABXY, in the Nintendo configuration. Start, select, a little function button to access the menu and the settings, and some shoulder buttons. The shoulder buttons are a little stiff to push, but they're not too bad. No big gripes with any of the controls, to be honest. Oh, and there's a micro SD card inside that you can swap out if you wanted. Mine did come with 32 gigabytes pre-installed, and it has a micro USB port for charging and data transfer. The screen is interesting. It's a good screen, it's an IPS screen and it looks good, but it's got these freaking huge bezels on the side. Well, they're not huge, obviously, but they're big compared to the size of the screen. It's a 240 by 240 display, so it's a square ratio. This is my biggest gripe with the FunKey S. Why on earth they thought that putting a square screen with big bezels on a device this tiny is beyond me. I'm sure there was a technical reason, but it just sucks that we couldn't have a proper 4x3 screen or a 3x2 ratio screen. All the games you play will either have to be vertically stretched or scaled down to play at their native aspect ratio, which makes them even smaller on a screen that's already too small. I hate that. I'm not gonna complain about it anymore in this video, but it's my main complaint, and it still bothers me even after playing with it a lot. I sort of get used to playing with the game Squish, but it still bothers me. I just can't get over it. Maybe you will. When you open the device, it turns on, and when you close it, the device turns off. I love that feature. That's so good. As for the system, it's great. I really like the system on this thing. It's no nonsense. It boots in like 5 seconds. It has all the basic settings when you push the menu button, like the volume and the brightness, and you can change the theme. Several pre-installed themes to choose from, and they all look good. All the game systems are listed, and you can navigate the game lists up and down or use the shoulder buttons to jump ahead. You can load up a game and it starts up right away. When you're in the game, you can press the menu button, bring up your options, and you can save and load your state, and change the volume and brightness, change the aspect ratio. Oh, and of course, if you read your manual, like I didn't, you'll know that you can change that stuff by holding down the select button and using the D-pad and buttons to change the volume and brightness and aspect ratio and take the screenshots, all that stuff. Yeah, it's a great little operating system. I frankly wish that more of these retro handheld devices had a system like this, because it just works without needing to be messing around with stuff. The device came without ROMs, so you'll have to be ready to add your own ROMs. It's super easy. Just plug it into your PC, mount the USB from the FunKey menu. You'll get a list of folders where you can add your ROMs. One cool thing is that this device can display screenshots or box art. So you could use a tool like Scraper to get the art for your ROM sets, similar to what I did for my AmLearnic 280V. I could make a tutorial on how to scrape art for your ROMs. Let me know if that's something you'd find helpful in the comments below. So I just went ahead and added a ton of ROMs for all the systems. Don't ask me how to get ROMs, because you'll have to find that out on your own. Hint, hint. So now we unmount this and check out the game list. We have our ROMs with our screenshots. Very cool. Let's do some game tests here. Real quick, I'll go through the systems that come ready to play out of the box. We got Game Boy, Gameboy Colour, Gameboy Advance, NES, Super NES, Gamegear, Sega Mater System, Sega Genesis, TurboGrafx 16, Atari Lynx, Neo Geo Pocket, Wonderswan Colour, and PlayStation 1. And that's it. So let's start with some Game Boy. I think you guys know what's coming up, right? It's TechDweeb testing retro handheld emulation device, so obviously you're gonna get to watch me play some Burger Time, my favorite Game Boy game, and it plays good. I mean, it's a tiny little handheld, it's not super duper comfortable, but it plays just fine, all things considered. I can move the little burger chef and the buttons work fine. The screen looks good, even though it's a tiny screen and I wish it had less bezels. It's actually a really quality, bright, colorful IPS screen. And for Game Boy games, they're not far off from a square aspect ratio anyway. I think the original Game Boy was 160 by 140 or something. So it actually feels pretty normal to play with the screen stretched. Or you could change the aspect ratio to get a normal Game Boy ratio. And it doesn't feel too small at all on this screen. I think Game Boy games are the perfect kind of games to play on this little device, because they're meant to be simple, portable experience and have a nice, big, readable text. I can see myself playing quite a bit of original Game Boy on the FunKey S, to be honest. I think the same would apply to Game Boy Color. It's the same ratio as the Game Boy, and the games are more of a simple design in terms of the gameplay and visuals, so they really work well as quick and easy portable games. And they feel fine to play on this little screen at either the native resolution or scaled to the native Game Boy Color aspect ratio. As you could probably tell, the speaker isn't super loud. You have to turn it all the way up to hear it at all, and even then it's not easy to hear. It's fine when you're playing in a quiet, dark room in your mom's basement, but it would be great for situations where you're out and about gallivanting around town, but you shouldn't be gaming while you're gallivanting anyway, so I guess it's fine. Time for some Game Boy Advance, my favorite retro system. Here you can see I added some of the game screenshot art, so it's nice to be able to scroll through your games and see some pictures. Playing Alien Hominid, which is a really good game if you haven't played it. I highly recommend it. It's sort of like Metal Slug. It's got a great comic art style and it's funny. You can see the aspect ratio is pretty stretched. When I change it to the native Game Boy Advance aspect ratio, you can see how small the screen gets. You'll encounter this with most systems, so my preference is to play with them stretched, even though they look weird, just because they're so small otherwise. You actually start to get used to seeing them stretched after you play with it for a bit. It's not ideal, but it's not the end of the world. Game Boy Advance plays just fine on this system. No problems with any of the games I tested. It even ran some of the harder to run games without problems, which was a nice surprise. The sort of 3D games, they run great, and they often have problems on my other devices. For games with lots of text and small details, they're not really comfortable. I played a little bit of Advance Wars 2, which is one of my favorite Game Boy Advance games of all time. And I really didn't find it comfortable to play. It was cool that I was playing Advance Wars on this tiny little 1.5" Game Boy Advance SP, but once the novelty wore off, I really didn't want to play games like this on the device. It's just not comfortable or fun, in my opinion. Let's move on to the NES, shall we? Playing some Bad Dudes. This game has the best story of any game, pretty much ever. You want to know what it's about? Well, watch this. The president has been kidnapped by ninjas. Are you a bad enough dude to rescue the president? Yeah, man. Bad Dudes. Best story ever. And yeah, this plays fine too. These NES games are meant for a 4x3 screen, so they're not too stretched to fit on this little 1x1 ratio screen. Oh man, I said I wasn't gonna complain about the screen anymore. Sorry guys, I won't mention it again. NES plays fine, no problems at all. And like the Game Boy, the NES games are actually designed to be easy to read the text, and the gameplay is a bit more simple, so even on a screen this size, they play fine and are totally enjoyable. Here's some Super Nintendo, playing NHL 98. I live in Canada, so you might say that hockey runs in my blood. You'd be wrong if you said that though. I don't play or pay attention to hockey. I'm what you might call an indoor kid. I never really cared about sports stuff, but I do like hockey games. And I actually played quite a bit of NHL hockey on the SNES. I don't remember which one, but they're all basically the same though. This didn't feel amazing. I think some games would feel fine, but this game wasn't super enjoyable on this tiny little screen. It was actually hard to see what was going on, and the controls were really frustrating. I found it hard to steer the character, and my button presses were just a little bit slow to do what I wanted to do. It's probably my stupid fingers, and I could probably get used to playing it eventually, but I did want to tell you, it's not all smooth sailing. You'll find games that are awkward to play on this tiny D-pad and buttons and screen. Your mileage may vary though. F-Zero felt great, so it's not a problem with SNES on this device per se. It's more that some games are going to be difficult depending on the gameplay and the graphics. I wanted to check out Star Fox, because this is a game that didn't run well on pretty much any of my retro devices. It's a demanding game to emulate, so let's see how it does on the FunKey S. Wow, just wow. It's running at full speed. No problems at all. This was a big surprise. I was expecting this little FunKey S could play games almost as good as the larger, more expensive handhelds, but I wasn't expecting it to do better than every little handheld I've tested. I mean, it's not super enjoyable to play Star Fox on this thing, but it runs great, at least. Since Star Fox ran well, I had to see Yoshi's Island. This game is super hard to emulate. Only the top-of-the-line retro handhelds can do it well. So how does it do here? Look at that, you guys. This intro screen is usually a laggy mess, and it's running full speed. No stuttering at all. And the gameplay's fine too. No stuttering, no audio glitches, just smooth gameplay. Again, it's not easy to play on this device, but I really wasn't expecting such great performance considering the size of this thing. Let's just blow through the other low-end systems so we can get to the big guns, PlayStation. So here's Alien 3 on the Gamegear. And here's Lion King on the Gamegear. Gamegear works good, and so does Sega Genesis. Here's some Bart's Nightmare running fine with no issues. TurboGrafx 16 is good to go as well. Here's Alien Crush, one of my favorite TurboGrafx 16 games, and one of my favorite pinball games, to be honest. It's a really good game, you guys. Play this game if you like pinball, or crushing aliens. And Neo Geo Pocket is good to go as well. Here's Samurai Showdown. Alright, on to the big dog. PlayStation. Surely this thing can't play PlayStation games, right? PlayStation is a 3D system running on a tiny GBA SP? Well, check this out. That's right, Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 2 running at full speed. Full freaking speed. No issues at all. Russ over at Retro Game Corps, which is one of my favorite retro handheld device channels. Check out his channel if you like these sorts of toys, because he reviews them all. Well, his review for the FunKey S, he played this game, Tony Hawk's 2, and he said the controls were hard to use and he couldn't really control his character properly. I disagree. I think it's fine. I was pulling off moves and felt totally in control. I say that on games like this, once you get the hang of them, you'll be just fine to play them and have a great time. If you can have a great time playing games on a tiny little device with a tiny little 1-inch screen, that is. And Spyro played fine too. It's an easy game to emulate. It runs on pretty much any of these retro handhelds, even the low-end ones. But it's a really good game. It's one of my favorite PS1 games, so I'm glad it runs well. And it looks great on this screen and this operating system. The actual game rendering looks really good here compared to lots of the other devices I have. It's really impressive. Crash Bandicoot 2 is the same kind of game. Simple looking, cute action platformer style game. Good game for kids, or childish adults like you and me. It runs great here, and it's actually really enjoyable to play on this device. Bloody Roar 2 is famously the hardest PS1 game to emulate. So, can the FunKey S handle Bloody Roar 2? Nope. Not at full speed. That's expected though. I would be in shock if it ran at full speed. In shock, I tell you. So yeah, not every single PS1 game is going to run perfectly. Well, most will, like 95% of PS1 games will run fine, no problems. Whether or not they're going to be enjoyable to play on this device depends on the game, it depends on you. I could see myself playing some PS1 games really quick on this thing from time to time. Not going to play through an entire Final Fantasy or anything, but it's fun for a bit. Sure, why not? I really wanted to try one fighting game that I have experience with, so I fired up Marvel vs. Capcom on the PS1. I wanted to see if I could actually pull off any of my special moves on this thing. It was sort of fine. It took some getting used to, and even at the end, I only hit my moves about half the time. I bet you can get used to it. Not the best way to play fighting games, obviously. And not the best way to play any games, if we're being honest. But at least you can play them, to some extent, which was surprising. I'm pleasantly surprised. So, we need to talk about the price now. I don't think I mentioned the price, but this thing costs 73 bucks. I mean, it's a good device, it has good hardware and a good screen, and it's powerful, it runs lots of hard games, but at 73 bucks? I don't know. This device is sort of a novelty, right? I mean, maybe it's worth it to you. I really like it. I also hate it for lots of reasons, but I like it for lots of reasons too. So what can I say about the FunKey S? It's the smallest little GBA you can find. Don't quote me on that. But it's not so small that you almost can't use it. You can play some games on it. It's not the most comfortable way to play games, but who cares anyways? It's freaking adorable. You don't buy a FunKey S because you think it's going to be an awesome gaming experience. You buy it because of what it is. It's a curious little object. It's a mini console that has the guts to play all the best retro systems all the way up to PS1, but it's so small that it is basically totally impractical. Why wouldn't you want that? It'll sit on your shelf and someday someone will say, "Oh my god, is that a tiny little Game Boy?" And you'll say, "Yeah bro, it's a little Game Boy, and look, it actually plays games." And they'll say, "Oh, seriously bro?" And you'll say, "Yeah bro, and look, it has all the systems and all the games for every system, and it even plays PlayStation." And they'll say, "Oh my god bro, that's freaking awesome." And you'll say, "Thanks bro," and you'll feel good. Because this curious little object brought a few brief moments of joy to someone, and you got joy from their joy. And you and your joy bro shared a nice little moment because you have the FunKey S. This is what life is about. None of this crap is necessary. We don't need retro handheld emulation devices or gaming PCs or any of this junk. But life is more than just scraping by with the bare minimum. Fun little toys like the FunKey S are the icing on the cake. They're the things that bring us joy, even if we know deep down they're not necessary and probably a waste of time and money. And that's what I think. Do you agree with me? Do you think this thing is cool or stupid? I'd love to know your thoughts, and I'm still pretty on the fence to be honest. Please let me know what you think in the comments below. And while you're down there, give me a thumbs up if you like the video, or a thumbs down if you think the FunKey S isn't funky and too small and stupid and you wish I would stop wasting your time reviewing such nonsense. Subscribe so you don't miss any of my videos. I'm TechDweeb. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.